life as a higher value than love, you won't follow love. This commandment made the ethical revolution of the Bible and of the Ten Commandments, what is known as ethical monotheism, possible. Worship the God of the Ten Commandments, and you will make a good world. Worship a false God, no matter how noble sounding, and you will end up with a world of cruelty. I'm Dennis Prager. Join Prager.
All right. Give me a takeaway. What's going on with your phone, dude?
Yes, CNN unsubscribe for everything.
She's still listening. What were you watching?
Reese, what's the takeaway?
One God means one human race.
One God means what?
One human race.
Yes. Ryan.
God says no, it's no. Because, like,
I
basically...
didn't get that at all.
Well, yeah, it made sense when I wrote it, but, like, basically, it was saying, like, the video...
What were you doing?
Watching anime.
Turn this off. Turn it off all the way.
Turn the ringer.
Turn it off.
What is it?
Why is it? How is it playing if it's off? Too late.
Wait, I just have a question.
Yeah, I have Snapchat too.
Hold on. Let's wait till everybody's focused.
Dog going.
Everybody's focused, guys. Not
Carson, what's your takeaway?
Most people think the Tenth Commandment is irrelevant to whatever.
But it's really the most relevant. What's an example of a false god, Tyler?
Not our God.
That dog right there. They're worshiping that dog.
What's an example of a false god, Nolan?
Dictator.
Tim.
Oh,
Reese.
The president.
Yeah.
Obsessed with the...
Ryan.
Mark Zuckerberg.
Famous person, yeah.
Maybe like a statue.
A statue. How about money? Money could be a false god. Loving, being married and loving your wife more than God. It's a false god.
I love my wife.
All right. Tony, what's your question?
So God created the universe, and if there's other life forms out there, why does He bring them to us?
Don't know. Good question. Maybe when you meet your
There
maker,
is another life form.
when you meet St. Peter at the pearly gates, that's what you can ask him.
Who at the pearly?
When you die, you go to heaven and there's the pearly gates, and St. Peter's right there waiting.
I'll
See
ask
if you
him.
get in.
Who's Saint Peter?
St. Peter's like the doorman to heaven.
Yo, dude, why didn't you give me an A on my science test?
It's like, well, dude, you didn't work hard
Is
enough.
there such a thing
They'll
as...
be like, okay.
All right. This is one that I
Is there such a thing
Take
as
very
the
literally,
worst sin?
never say,
one
"Oh my
sin that
God,"
is
in
worse
front of
than all the others? Well, there is. I am well aware that some people differ. They maintain that we can't declare any sin worse than any other. To God, a sin is how it's often expressed. In this view, the person who steals a stapler from the office is committing as grievous a sin in God's eyes as a murderer. But most people intuitively, as well as biblically, understand that some sins are clearly worse than others. We are confident that God has at least as much common sense as we do. The God of Judaism and Christianity does not equate stealing an office item with murder. So then, what is the worst sin? The worst sin is committing evil in God's name. How do we know? From the third commandment of the Ten Commandments. This is the only one of the Ten Commandments that states that God will not forgive a person who violates the commandment. What does the commandment say? It is most commonly translated as, "Do not take the name of the Lord thy God in vain, for the Lord will not hold guiltless," meaning will not forgive, "whoever takes his name in vain." Most people understandably think that the commandment forbids saying God's name for no good reason. So something like, "God, that I have a rough day at work today," violates the third commandment. But that interpretation presents a real problem. It would mean that whereas God could forgive the violation of any of the other commandments, dishonoring one's parents, stealing, adultery, or even committing murder, he would never forgive someone who said, "God, did I have a rough day at work today?" Let's be honest. That would render God and the Ten Commandments morally incomprehensible. Well, as it happens, the commandment is not the problem. The problem is the translation. The Hebrew original does not say, "do not take." It says, "do not carry." The Hebrew literally reads, "do not carry the name of the Lord thy God in vain." One of the most widely used new translations of the Bible, the New International Version, or NIV, uses the word misuse rather than the word take. You shall not misuse the name of the Lord your God. This is much closer to the original's intent. What does it mean to carry or to misuse God's name? It means committing evil in God's name, and that God will not forgive. Why not? When an irreligious person commits evil, it doesn't bring God and religion into disrepute. But when religious people commit evil, especially in God's name, they are not only committing evil, they are doing terrible damage to the name of God. In our time, there is an example of this. The evils committed by Islamists who torture, bomb, cut throats, and mass murder, all in the name of God, do terrible damage to the name of God. It is not coincidental that what is called the New Atheism, the immense eruption of atheist activism, followed the 9/11 attacks on America by Islamist terrorists. In fact, the most frequent argument against God and religion concerns evil committed in God's name, whether it is done in the name of Allah today or was done in the past in the name of Christ. People who murder in the name of God not only kill their victims, they kill God too. That's why the greatest sin is religious evil. That's what the third commandment is there to teach. Don't carry God's name in vain. If you do, God won't forgive you. I'm Dennis Prager. Join Prager University. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and sign up for free at Prager.
A sin that's recently happened in the name of religion. Yes.
The Syria dude dropping gas on the
You think that's religious or political?
That was political.
Ryan.
That one shooting in Florida, maybe? No.
No, that was insane.
No,
No,
that was insanity. Connor. The church in I don't know if he was doing it in the Lord's name, but
What are you thinking about?
The guy in the other Florida.
well, the Catholic Church has some problems.
The other, just say something in Florida and it probably.
Matthew.
It was like that nightclub.
Go ahead.
The Spanish Inquisition.
Yeah, that was pretty bad. The Spanish Inquisition or the Crusades. Nolan.
Like what happened in Waco, Texas?
Yeah, that's a good one. David Koresh
Yeah.
had a cult, and in God's name was doing awful things to young girls, and not very religious. But how about the guy from Penn State, Jerry Sandusky,
What do you do?
the football coach?
What do you do?
Oh, guys, wow. He ran a organization that helped kids who did not have a lot of money or didn't have parents, or helped orphans, and he had his way with them. Yeah.
What?
Look it up, Jerry Sandusky, Penn State. Horrible, horrible man. Special place in hell, right? What are some takeaways you guys got? Timmy.
Yeah, sorry.
All sins are equal.
All sins are not equal?
All sins are.
He needs his brother.
Well, he was saying our sins are not equal. Like stealing a stapler is not as bad as murdering somebody.
Or is
Connor.
The worst sin is committing evil in God's name.
Yes, that's the one takeaway I hope you all get. If you're going to raise a cross and commit sins under that cross, God will not forgive you. Reese.
I'm confused. Like, if you say, "Oh my God," like, will like God not forgive you?
No.
Didn't like that
No.
video just like deter your theory on it?
Yeah, it did. But I still don't want you to swear saying "Oh my God" in front of me. I think it's lazy. Say "Oh my gosh."
Oh my.
Yeah.
My, oh my.
Do not use the Lord's name like that. All right, let's move on.
What is wrong?
Oh, you finished. I just think I'm grass.
Took you guys long.
Watching the
Hey, you did it.
Okay. Now this doesn't mean.
asking for all the answers.
No, because
Many people,
All right, listen up. We got 2 more to go.
She's smoking.
many
more to
people
go. Listen up.
who revere the Ten Commandments
And this is not Black Sabbath the band. This is
particularly
Sabbath
important,
Sunday.
let alone binding. Once you understand it, however, you will recognize how life-changing, even world-changing, the Sabbath commandment is. And you will begin to appreciate how relevant it is to your own life. The fourth commandment reads, remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy.
What can I do to get candy?
6 days you shall labor and
You
do
can pay
all
attention
your
now.
work. But the seventh day is the Sabbath to the Lord your God. On it you shall not do any work, neither you, nor your son or daughter, nor your male or female servant, nor your animals, nor any foreigner residing in your towns. Why is this so important? First, perhaps more than any other commandment, it elevated the human being. How so? For nearly all of human history, life consisted overwhelmingly of work. In effect, humans were beasts of burden. This commandment, and only this commandment, changed all that by insisting that people cease working 1 day out of 7. Second, more than any other commandment, the Sabbath day reminds people that they are meant to be free. As the second version of the commandment, the one summarized by Moses in the book of Deuteronomy, states, remember that you were slaves in Egypt. In other words, remember that slaves cannot have a Sabbath. In light of this, I might add that in the biblical view, unless necessary for survival, people who choose to work 7 days a week are essentially slaves. Slaves to work, or perhaps to money, but slaves nonetheless. The millionaire who works 7 days a week is simply a rich slave. Third, while the Bible cannot universally abolish slavery, the Sabbath commandment greatly humanized that terrible institution and even helped make slavery impossible. By definition, a slave owner was under no obligation to allow a slave to ever rest, let alone to rest 1 day every week. Yet that is exactly what the fourth commandment commanded. Even a slave has fundamental human rights. Therefore, a slave, too, is a human being. Fourth, the Sabbath almost single-handedly creates and strengthens family ties and friendships. When a person takes off from work 1 day every week, that day almost inevitably becomes a day spent with other people, namely family and or friends. It has similar positive effects on marriages. Ask anyone married to a workaholic how good it would be for their marriage if the workaholic would not work for 1 day each week. And you can appreciate the power of the Sabbath day. Fifth, the Sabbath commandment granted animals dignity. Even one's animals had to rest 1 day a week. It is, to the best of our knowledge, the first national law in history on behalf of animals. And its benefits to animals surely went beyond the mandatory day of rest for them. People who felt divinely obligated to give their animals a day of rest were much less likely to treat their animals cruelly any day of the week. Now, All 5 of these life-changing and society-changing benefits of the Sabbath are available to anyone. You don't have to be a Jew, a Christian, or even a believer in God to derive all these benefits. But the reality is that those who believe the 10 Commandments were given by God are the ones who have kept the Sabbath alive. The God factor plays another role in the Sabbath. Just as faith in God brings people to the Sabbath, observing the Sabbath brings people to faith in God. That is why the first version of the 10 Commandments, the version in the book of Exodus, ends with these words. For in 6 days God made the heavens and the earth, the sea, and all that is in them, but he rested on the 7th day. Therefore God blessed the Sabbath day and made it holy. However you interpret 6 days, and many Jewish and Christian believers do not translate days as 24-hour periods, the point is this. Every time you keep the Sabbath, you are affirming that there was a creator, that the world didn't just happen, that life isn't some meaningless coincidence, but that it is infinitely meaningful, and therefore each of us has a unique significance and purpose. Not bad for 1 day a week. No wonder that the Sabbath is one of the 10 Commandments. No wonder that those who have it in their lives are often happier, with richer family lives, more serenity, a community of friends, and yes, are even healthier. You might want to give it a try. I'm Dennis Prager. Join Prager University. Subscribe to our...
I feel like he said that for the first tour, he said that, oh yeah, most people don't think of this matters.
This is really bad.
What's your takeaway, Connor?
People who work 7 days a week were considered slaves, even if they're like really rich.
Well, Kirk.
Sunday reminds us that we are free.
Yep. Reese.
The Sabbath day has lots of power.
Yeah.
Wait.
Well, and then, you honor the Sabbath by spending it with your family, right? And spending time with them and being good. And that's one of the main theme of all the commandments, is being good to people, especially people close to you. All right, one more. And I think at this point in your life, it's the most important one. Anyone guess what it is? Matthew. Honor your father and your mother. As you're growing up, you're going to get older. You're going to be in high school. There's going to be times you're not going to want to honor your father and mother. But if you follow the 10 Commandments, you listen to this, this might help you.
The fifth of the 10 Commandments reads, honor your father and your mother. This commandment is so important that it is one of the only commandments in the entire Bible that gives a reason for observing it, that your days may be long in the land that the Lord your God is giving you. Many people read that part of the fifth commandment as a reward. But while it may be regarded as a reward, the fact remains that it is a reason. If you build a society in which children honor their parents, your society will long survive. And the corollary is, a society in which children do not honor their parents is doomed to self-destruction. In our time, this connection between honoring parents and maintaining civilization is not widely recognized. On the contrary, many of the best educated parents do not believe that their children need to show them honor, since honoring implies an authority figure, and that is a status many modern parents reject. In addition, many parents seek to be loved, not honored, by their children. Yet neither the 10 Commandments nor the Bible elsewhere commands us to love our parents. This is particularly striking, given that the Bible commands us to love our neighbor, to love God, and to love the stranger. The Bible understands that there will always be individuals who, for whatever reason, do not love a parent. Therefore, it does not demand what may be psychologically or emotionally impossible. But it does demand that we show honor to our parents. And it makes this demand only with regard to parents. There is no one else who the Bible commands us to honor. So then, why is honoring parents so important? Why does the Ten Commandments believe that society could not survive if this commandment were widely violated? One reason is that we as children need it. Parents may want to be honored, and they should want to be, but children need to honor parents. A father and a mother who are not honored are essentially adult peers of their children. They are not parents. No generation knows better than ours the terrible consequences of growing up without a father.
Sit down.
Fatherless boys are far more likely to grow up and commit violent crime, mistreat women, and act out against society in every other way. Girls who do not have a father to honor, and hopefully to love as well, are more likely to seek the wrong men and to be promiscuous at an early age. Second, honoring parents is how nearly all of us come to recognize that there is a moral authority above us to whom we are morally accountable. And without this, we cannot create or maintain a moral society. Of course, for the Ten Commandments, the ultimate moral authority is God, who is therefore higher than even our parents. But it is very difficult to come to honor God without having had a parent, especially a father, to honor. Sigmund Freud, the father of psychiatry and an atheist, theorized that one's attitude towards one's father largely shaped one's attitude toward God. There's one more reason why honoring parents is fundamental to a good society. Honoring parents is the best antidote to totalitarianism. One of the first things totalitarian movements seek to do is to break the child-parent bond. A child's allegiance is shifted from parents to the state. Even in democratic societies, the larger the state becomes, the more it usurps the parental role. Finally, there are many ways to honor parents. The general rule is this: they get special treatment. Parents are unique, so they must be treated in a unique way. You don't talk to them in quite the same way you do anyone else. For example, you might use expletives when speaking to a friend, but you don't with a parent. You don't call them by their first name.
That's right.
And when you leave their home and make your own, you maintain contact with them.
Yes.
Having no contact with parents is the opposite of honoring them. And yes, we all recognize that some parents have behaved so cruelly, and I mean cruelly, not annoyingly, that one finds it morally impossible to honor them. There are such cases, but they are rare. And remember this: if your children see you honor your parents, no matter how difficult it may sometimes be, the chances are far greater that they will honor you. I'm Dennis Prager. Join Prager University.
Hey,
Subscribe
takeaways!
to our YouTube channel and sign up for free at prageru.com.
Skyber, or Connor, go.
Some parents do love and not honored by their children, so like the kids like them better.
Yep. They want to be their friends, not their parents, right? We all know people like that. Reese.
Once you like leave, or like and like for like college or like you have a new house, it's like disrespectful if you don't call them.
Yep. Yep. Send a raven. Or a telegram. Or a letter. Or a smoke signal. Yeah. Bottle, pigeon. Skyber.
I put that as the only commandment to have reasoning behind it.
To have reasoning behind it. Yeah. Timmy.
This is the only commandment that has a reason.
Okay.
Don't they all have a reason?
Yeah, well, the reason is because God said so, but this one has a reason why God said so.
All right.
Classes are
Give you homework.
Oh no. I have.
Take your sheets. Take your sheets that you wrote on. Put them in your bag. I want this done next week. By
Not
next
gonna be
week.
here next week.
Where are y'all gonna be?
Baseball.
It's not gonna be baseball. I think the
I'm gonna
weather's
be out in Texas, my boy.
Bring your pencils up.
Come on, it's April, guys. You don't think it's gonna be like...
It's gonna be 40 degrees
Yeah, I know.
and
but
raining.
40 or whatever. We still have to play.
How do you know?
Grab your papers, put them in. Bring up your pencils.
Oh, where's
Why did you say?
When?
All right.
That was you.
You know Lane is better.
Honestly, if Taft's in a better location.
Lane is too much, then life's gonna be a
Lane just
castle.
has more room and then gets more money because it has more.
You have one.
So it's just like a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Oh, you got a problem. You got a sugar addiction.
From what? Oh, and my ID, bro. Do
Yeah.
AP though. Once you're done with honors, do AP.
Yeah.
Do AP is college. You get college credit, so you get what is basically honors.
Go ahead. One.
I don't know. I don't know. I think it's the same thing. It's just a little harder. But I think it's just a faster pace. It's not really harder. It's just more stuff.
Basically, it's like,
You guys have a good week. I'll see you Sunday, hopefully.
I know that. What?
When is our first game?
That will come out soon. We gotta get some good weather first.
Yeah.
The games start, I think, in the middle of May.
Phil,
Yo,
I need one of those fake things.
you didn't get it?
No, I didn't.
I sent it to your mom.
Is that okay? Because she was saying how she didn't. I was asking her about it, and she said.
I'll send it out again.
Alright. I don't know if she got. So I thought she got something else, but.
I'll send it out.
Alright, thanks.
All right.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome.
Phil.
See you, Phil.
All right. See you, Nolan.